Okay, good morning. All right, Leanne has some handouts she's going to pass out. This is a little quiz we're going to do later on. This is something I came across, it was in Focus on the Family about 12 years ago, an article I read, and it just really opened my eyes. And it's something I've shared with, I don't know, it's something that it comes up almost every time I'm with people, and I like to share it. For grounding, I just want to read from 1 Corinthians 12. Glasses for this. The body is a unit, though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Now, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has arranged the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If we were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, while our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has combined the members of the body and has given greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, and that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, then every part suffers with it, and if one part is honored, then every part rejoices with it. Let's pray. Lord, thank you that we are here today, that you brought us together, and thank you that you have made us all different for your purpose. And yet, even though we are all different, you are one, but you want to connect with all of us, and you want us all to connect together. So as we look into this mystery today of unity, but still being different, open us up to how we can connect to you and connect to each other. In Jesus' name, amen. I love this passage in Corinthians. I think it's hilarious. He just goes on and on and on. And so this picture that I have here, this is how I'm different. I like to learn new things. And this is something that I learned in maybe the last year. So Paul lived in the city of Corinth, set up a church there. He lived there for a year and a half. And it was a very pagan city. It was kind of a crossroads town. There were people coming and going. There were over 20 different temples to different gods. And one of them was a temple to the god called, the Greek god, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Asclepius. He was the god of medicine. And this is a temple that Paul would have probably walked by every day while he lived in Corinth. So, as the god of medicine, he was actually, I'm not sure if he was actually a real person. But the symbol for this Greek god is actually still used today for hospitals. That you see the rod with the wings and the double serpent. That's Asclepius's symbol. And so people would go to this temple if they were sick or if they were injured, and it wasn't just a matter of, oh, say a prayer to this god and you'll be okay. There was actual medical treatment that they would get. So it was kind of like an early hospital, but it was tied to this pagan religion. And so one of the pagan practices was, and I'm a little fuzzy on this, and I think archaeologists are a little fuzzy on this, but either before, in hope of healing, or after you had been healed, you would offer to the god a symbol of the body part that you wanted healed. And kind of like, Remembrance Day is coming up in about a month. People gather at the Septimoth and they lay flowers and wreaths. Outside the temple, there were all these body parts just sort of laying there. These are the actual body parts from Corinth. They found hundreds of these things, dating back to like 400 years before Paul was even there. So Paul, living in Corinth, would have been walking by this pile of body parts almost every day. And reading this passage, it's just like, the first thing that would come into my mind if I saw this pile of body parts was, I wonder if there's enough pieces there to actually make a whole person. And that's kind of the gist of what Paul is saying. And I believe, I've misread this passage for years. Because I thought, Jews and Greeks and slaves and frees, but now we're all one. So it's like, okay, we got to put aside what we were, and now we're this new thing. Now we're all supposed to be one, we should all be the same. But what I see in this passage is Paul saying, no, you're still supposed to be different from each other. And so today what I want to talk about is another way that we're different, and how that we can embrace the differences and actually work with that. So I just want to talk a little bit about how my wife and I are different. We just went to England and Ireland back in the spring. It was a trip, our 20th anniversary trip. And so these are just some of the pictures. In the middle there, that is St. Paul's Cathedral in London, England. It is massive. It's a massive church. Like you can see the buildings around it. It's got to be on its own at least 15, 20 stories, this cathedral. I have never seen a bigger church. This is Westminster Abbey, that's also in London. Again, you can see how huge this church is. This is University Church or Cathedral up in Oxford, in England. Lovely stained glass windows there. This is this is a church in Ireland. This is the church that Sarah's great-great-great-grandparents went to. So that was neat to go to. We went inside and got to see. It's actually a very tiny church. And it's in the area of a place called Downpatrick, which is where St. Patrick started his missionary preaching. So this church is called Saul Church. Saul means barn. So the church kind of looks like a barn, and it's in memory of St. Patrick. His first sermon was preached in a barn, because there were no churches when St. Patrick came to Ireland. So they recreated the church to look like a barn. This is Inch Abbey, which is also near this town called Downpatrick, and from there you can see St. Patrick's Cathedral. I took a more, artistic photo through some of the ruins of Inch Abbey. of that church. Here's the thing though. This is me. For whatever reason, for the longest time, church buildings creep me out. Even modern buildings. I see a church building and it is not. I do not rush to go into them. This last church, this was our last night in Ireland, and it was Easter weekend, so they were actually having a service, and Sarah went in to take part, and I'm like, no, I'm not going in. So I took a picture from outside while I was waiting. Maybe as we go through this quiz, you can maybe guess why. I think I know why. But for me, what I feel more comfortable with is being out in nature. And so this is, again, this is in the Lake District in England. This is an old slate mine, and part of it had collapsed. And so now it's just this huge cave, and they call it Cathedral Cavern. And let's see if this video works. We have sound.
Cathedral Cavern. Hello. Hello. Here we are.
All right. We have a bit of an echo. There was an echo there, but then there was another video echo. I don't know why that happened. So today we're going to take this temperament quiz. I didn't come up with it. I saw it in an article in Focus on the Families. There's a guy named Gary Thomas. I don't know much about him. He wrote a book about it. I haven't read the book. Just read the quiz, read the article. But it opened up for me an understanding that people that are different from me, and I don't know, maybe you're sitting here and you've always felt a little different, and maybe you're thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I different? Or maybe you're like me and you think, what's wrong with everybody else? Because, I am kind of like Gru in this clip.
All right. Sleepy kittens. Sleepy kittens. What are these?
Puppets. You use them when you tell the story.
Okay, let's get this over with. 3 little kittens loved to play. They had fun in the sun all day. Then their mother came out and said, "Time for kittens to go to bed." Wow, this is garbage. I should like this.
Keep reading.
That was my attitude for the longest time. I probably wouldn't express it that way, but in my head, that's what I was thinking. You like this? What is wrong with you? So let's do this quiz together. Stop. There we go. All right. So how do we do the quiz? I'll read it off as we go through. And so if something is not true for you, the statement is not true for you, you put a 1.
Yeah.
And if it is true, totally true, then you put a 5, and sort of on the scale. So, like if you read something, you're like, you know what, I've never tried that, I really don't know, you put a 3. All right. So, are you a naturalist? Number one, I feel closest to God when I'm surrounded by what He has made, the mountains, the forests, or the oceans. We put a 1 if that is not true for you, or 5 if that is absolutely true for you. 2, I feel cut off if I have to spend too much time indoors, just listening to speakers or singing songs. Nothing makes me feel closer to God than being outside. 3, I would rather worship God by spending an hour beside a small brook than by participating in a group service. 4, if I could escape to a garden to pray on a cold day, walk through a meadow on a warm day, and take a trip by myself to the mountains on another day, I would be very happy. 5, I'd like a book called Nature's Sanctuary. Is that a true book? Not sure whether that book actually exists or not. 6, seeing God's beauty in nature is more moving to me than understanding new concepts, participating in a formal religious service, or participating in social causes. So then you can total up all your answers. If you scored 1 for everything, you would have a 6. And if you scored 5, you would have 30. But probably somewhere in the middle there. Next, are you a sensate? I feel closest to God when I'm in a church that allows my senses to come alive, when I can see, smell, hear, and almost taste His majesty. 2, I enjoy attending a high church service with a formal communion. 3, it's hard worshiping in a church building that is plain and lacks a sense of awe or majesty. Beauty is important to me, and I have a difficult time worshiping through second-rate Christian art or music. 4, the words sensuous, colorful, and aromatic are very appealing to me. 5, I'm naturally drawn to museums and concerts more than I'm inclined to take a walk in the woods, work in a soup kitchen, or read a book by myself. 6, I would really enjoy drawing exercises or classical music playing in the background to improve my prayer life. Total up your answers. Next, are you a traditionalist? I feel closest to God when I'm participating in a familiar form of worship that has memories dating back to my childhood. Rituals and traditions move me more than anything else. 2, I begin to feel closest to God laying something on the altar, sacrificing it for Him. 3, the words tradition and history are very appealing to me. 4, participating in a formal liturgy or prayer book service, developing symbols that I can place in my car, home, or office, and developing a Christian calendar for our family to follow our activities I would enjoy. 5, a book titled Symbolism and Liturgy in Personal Worship would appeal to me. 6, I would enjoy developing a personal rule or ritual of prayer. That goes all up. Are you an activist? I feel closest to God when I'm cooperating with Him in standing up for His justice, writing letters to government officials and newspaper editors, picketing at a place of injustice, urging people to vote, or becoming informed about current issues. 2, I get very frustrated if I see apathetic Christians who don't become active. I want to drop everything else I'm doing and help the church overcome its apathy. 3, the terms courageous confrontation and social activism are very appealing to me. 4, things like confronting a social evil, challenging the new curriculum at the local school board, or volunteering on a political campaign are important to me. And this is, like I said, from 12 years ago. The book written by Frankie Schaeffer, A Time for Anger, or a book like it, would be an important book for me to read. 6, I would rather stand in the rain for an hour to confront an evil than sit in a room by myself for an hour and pray. take a walk through the woods, or read a book. Next, are you an aesthetic? I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I feel closest to God when I am alone with nothing to distract me from focusing on His presence. 2, I would describe my faith as more internal than external. 3, the words silence, solitude, and discipline are very appealing. 4, taking an overnight retreat by myself where I could spend large amounts of time alone in a small room, praying, studying God's Word, and fasting for 1 or more days are all activities I would enjoy. I would enjoy reading the book A Place Apart, monastic prayer and practice for everyone. Number 6, I would really enjoy spending time on a night watch, taking a short vow of silence or simplifying my life. Next, are you a caregiver? I feel closest to God when I see Him in the needy, the poor, the sick, and the imprisoned. I feel God's presence most strongly when I am sitting quietly by the bed of someone who is lonely or ill, or when I am taking a meal to someone in need. You can count on me to offer a ride or to volunteer for helping activities. That's a lot for one thing. 2, I grow weary of Christians who spend their time singing songs while the sick neighbor goes without a hot meal or a friend in need doesn't get help fixing their car. 3, the words service and compassion are very appealing to me. 4, I sense God's power when I am counseling a friend who has lost a job, preparing meals for or fixing the car of a family in need, or spending a week at an orphanage in Mexico. 5, a book titled 99 Ways to Help Your Neighbor would be very appealing to me. 6, I would rather nurse someone to health or help someone repair someone's house than teach an adult Sunday school class, go on a prayer and fasting retreat, or take a lonely walk in the woods. So what goes up? Next, are you an enthusiast? 1, I feel closest to God when my heart is set, soaring, and I feel like I want to burst, worship God all day long, and shout out His name. Celebrating God and His love is my favorite form of worship. 2, God is an exciting God, and we should be excited about worshiping Him. I don't understand how some Christians can say they love God and then act like they're going to a funeral when they walk into a church. 3, the words celebration and joy are very appealing to me. 4, I would enjoy attending a workshop or on learning to worship through dance or a worship session with contemporary music. I expect that God is going to move in some unexpected ways. 5, I would enjoy reading the book The Mystery and the Excitement of Walking with God. 6, I spend more money on worship music downloads than on books. Next one. Are you a contemplative? I feel closest to God when my emotions are awakened, when God quietly touches my heart, tells me that He loves me and makes me feel like I'm His closest friend. I would rather be alone with God, contemplating His love, than participating in a formal liturgy or going for a walk outside. 2, the most difficult times in my faith are when I can't feel God's presence within me. 3, the words lover, intimacy, and heart are very appealing to me. 4, I really enjoy having 30 minutes of uninterrupted time each day to sit in quiet prayer and hold hands with God, writing love letters to Him and enjoying His presence. 5, I would enjoy reading The Transforming Friendship. 6, when I think of God, I think of love, friendship, and adoration more than anything. Now, this is the final one. Are you an intellectual? I feel closest to God when I learn something new about Him, that I didn't understand before. My mind needs to be stimulated. It's very important to me that I know exactly what I believe. 2, I get frustrated when the church focuses too much on feelings and spiritual experience. Of far more importance is the need to understand the Christian faith and to have proper doctrine. 3, the words concept and truth are very appealing to me. 4, I feel close to God when I participate in several hours of uninterrupted study time, reading God's Word or good Christian books, and then perhaps having an opportunity to teach or participate in a discussion with a small group. 5, a book on church dogmatics would be appealing to me. 6, I spend more money on books than music. Right, so tally up your answers, your points. The highest number of points possible in each is 30. The higher your score, the stronger the dominance of the spiritual temperament is in your life. Remember, most of us have more than one temperament. Any score of 15 or higher indicates a tendency towards that temperament. So let's just sort of go through them a little bit. How many scored 20 or higher for sensate? Sensate. You got 20 or higher. Interesting. Intellectual, how many scored 20 or higher? I think it's pretty obvious for me. Okay. Naturalist, 20 or higher. We'd all go on a camping trip together. Traditionalist, you got 20 or higher. Oh, interesting. Activist. Okay. So I'm going by this one. Aesthetic, 20 or higher. Maybe I should be doing 15 or higher. You all did it. Contemplative. Okay, much more for the contemplative. Caregiver. Quite a few. And enthusiast. So what are we going to do with this? Now that we've sort of taken the focus, and yeah, it's a quiz from a magazine. It's not binding or anything. I'm sure if you were to take it again in a few years, it might be different, and that's okay. The article in the magazine was all about how husbands and wives can have different temperaments, but should be open to appreciating the differences. When I looked at this, what jumped out at me is how these kind of line up to the different denominations that we see. So let's play denomination bingo. I'll call them out and just shout out a denomination that you think matches this. Sensate. Catholic. Or Orthodox. Intellectual. I think of the Reformed churches. They seem to be really heavy on doctrine or even just like a Christian university. Naturalist. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a denomination either, but how many really look forward to going to Bible camp in the summer? You can't wait. And the rest of the year is just boring. Traditionalist. Catholic, that's easy. Most churches have their own traditions. Even maybe not as old as the Catholic Church, but most churches make up their own traditions and become traditions. Aesthetic. That one. Yeah, monks. Monasteries. Contemplative. Pentecostal. Caregiver.
Village church.
For which? For caregiver?
Village church.
This one, Ethan.
Or for contemplative or for caregiver?
Caregiver.
Okay, nice. I would think Salvation Army, too. That would jump into my head. Activist. Enthusiast. Pentecostal, yeah. Jumps out at me to me that way too. So like if we were to sort of all sort of write down our highest actually that's what I should have asked. I should have instead of 20 or higher, like your highest one on it. Yeah. So let's do it that way, your highest one. So sensing, who had that for their highest? Even if it wasn't more than 20? Okay, no one had it for their highest. Interesting. All right, that's fine. Intellectual, that was my highest. It's tied with another. Naturalists, who had that for their highest? Traditionalists, who had that for their highest? Aesthetic, who had that for their highest? Okay. Contemplative. More. Caregiver. More. Activist. And enthusiast, who had that for their highest? Okay. All right. I don't think it's wrong that people would naturally gravitate to being with people who have the same temperament. And I kind of think that's how a lot of the denominations from like 200 years ago that got started. It's like, hey, we like to worship God this way. I remember the first time I went to the Christian Writers Conference years ago. They used to hold it in Guelph. And it wasn't just me, there were other people who were there for the first time. And it was just like, oh, we found our people. We never felt like we fit anywhere else. But suddenly, we found like we fit. And so when we specialize and get together with people of the same temperament, we can do great things. I think the problem comes when we start then saying, moving from this is the way we like to worship to this is the only way to worship God, and then we start saying that other ways are wrong. And the church that I grew up at, I was even, made to feel that. Those, told, don't go to those churches. Even to this day, like I have friends, you ask, oh, how's your brother doing? How's your son? How's your daughter? How are they doing? It's like, oh, we're praying for them. Oh, what's the matter? Go to the Pentecostal church. Or you're going to the Baptist church, or they're going to, and it's, they're still going to church, right? Because I think that's what happens. These denominations started about 200 years ago. And I think they were sort of grouped around all these different temperaments. But then the next generation grows up, and temperaments are not genetic. So the kids didn't necessarily have the same temperament as their parents, and they fit in better in a different denomination. But the parents are just like, oh, where did we go wrong? So I want us to leave thinking about how we can embrace our differences. I don't actually have a lot of answers. This is just sort of pointing in a direction. Because what also jumps out at me is it's impossible to do all of these things at the same time. You know, for the people that like to be alone, and then the people the enthusiasts that need a big crowd to worship God, I think we can learn to appreciate each other, but we need. And what I do appreciate about the village, and even we saw it here this morning, just the variety of styles of worship that happen here. So many churches you go to, it's just like the same thing every week. And like our family, like we, over the years, we've been to a lot of different churches. When my wife and I got married, before we got married, we toured with a Christian theater company. We were in all kinds of different denominations. I remember at one point we were between churches and we were trying out different churches. We went to one church and it was very, piano for the hymns. It was very dour and somber. It was all sort of, and I remember the pastor getting up before he preached and praying about, God, may your spirit come and may people not be distracted by the routine of everything. And there's definitely a lot of routine in this church. And then it was like it was in the same month, we went to another church. They had a full band. It was just pump, pump, pump. And then the pastor got up and he prayed. He's like, Lord, may we not get distracted by all of the lights and the sounds and the music. And it's just like, okay, so it's like wherever people are, they're just not happy where they are. We need to find a way of finding the balance of being a body, but embracing our differences. And again, I don't have answers, but I think, I feel like I'm here because we're on the right track. That we do have the variety, because we can't do it all every Sunday. But we can, one Sunday if we do, responsive reading, or another Sunday, even having moments of silence. Because I've learned, as I've learned to appreciate that, okay, the people that, I scored very low on the traditional side. I think that's why church buildings creep me out. Because they are all about tradition. It is literally carved in stone and nailed to the floor. And I just don't relate to God that way. But I can appreciate, and for years I was like Drew, I was kind of dismissive. It's like, people are like, well, we've always done it this way, so it's like, so? I was kind of dismissive of people. But suddenly I realized, that's actually important to you. You're not just saying that because you think it's important to somebody else, or it's actually important to you. Okay, I can appreciate that. Sometimes with small groups, we've done this where, because it's good to expose yourselves to things that you are low on. So then, because this is the other thing, God is in all of these things. To recognize that God, because it's easy to say, I don't like tradition, I don't think God is in that. But then to see, wait, actually maybe he is in that. As I say, we've done this, at least once with a small group. Silence can be very uncomfortable for people. Dan's been talking about bravery. To sit in a big room and be silent, that is terrifying for a lot of people. And we did this exercise where we were just quiet prayer, no speaking, for 5 minutes. And if you're not used to it, after 30 seconds you think, we're done, right? We're done. Somebody say something. But something happens. It's kind of like getting into a hot bath. At first it's very uncomfortable, but then you kind of acclimatize. And so with doing a practice of silence, and yeah, you need about 5 minutes. It's around about the 3 or 4 minute mark. You kind of let go of all the anxiety of like, when's somebody going to say something, when's this going to end, and then you actually start to feel it's like, okay, I can pray to God quietly, and I can know that other people are also praying to God. Because I've been in churches where they do try to have this silence, but it's always like you're just getting into the moment where you're finally clearing your head and stuff, and then somebody jumps up to speak because there's always somebody there who just can't stand the silence and they've got to say something. But getting used to silence is good, and getting trying out these things on a small scale. Some people just I love nature. Some people, nope, that's where the bugs are. Not going, not gonna touch it. But yeah, I just want to leave you with that, and I want to leave you with Guru again.
Okay, now it's time for bed.
Oh, come on, you want a story? 3 Sleepy Kittens!
Oh no, sorry, that book was accidentally destroyed maliciously. Tonight, we are going to read a new book. This one is called One Big Unicorn. By who wrote this? Oh, me! I wrote it. Oh, look, it's a puppet book. Yeah, watch this. This is
This is going to be the best book ever!
not to pat myself on the back, but yes, it probably will be. Here we go. One big unicorn, strong and free, thought he was happy as he could be. Then 3 little kittens came around and turned his whole life upside down.
Hey, that one looks like me!
No, what are you talking about? These are kittens. Any relation to a person's living or dead is completely coincidental. They made him laugh. Oh, they made him cry. Oh. He never should have said goodbye. And now he knows he could never part from those 3 little kittens that changed his heart. The end. Okay, all right. Good night.
I love you.
I love you too. No, no. Oh, all right. Didn't I get you already?
Let's pray. Lord, thank you that you love us, and that this love is the most excellent way. That is how we can be unified even with all of our differences. Help us to be confident in ourselves, in how you have made us to connect with you, and to appreciate others in how you have made them. And may we work together for your glory. In Jesus' name. Amen.